Hello everyone and welcome to Aircover. Aircover is an international, inspiring and informative webinar series by Global University Systems that brings to you some of the most interesting businesses and business leaders from across the globe. Our topic today is finding career fulfillment. We're joined by Misbah Malik, who is a Senior Manager Talent Acquisition at Coty and Career and Transformation Coach at Orenda Career and Lifestyle Coaching. In this episode, we'll be talking about how to stand out during your job application process. We'll provide advice to help students grow their businesses. And Misbah will also talk about her experience working as a career and transformation coach. We'll also get to hear about the lessons she has learned working in various industries, including beauty, fashion, and employment law. Misbah also champions equality, diversity, and inclusivity in her workplace, which we'll also get to hear more about. Misbah, a very warm welcome.
Thank you.
To Aircover. We're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to our staff and students.
No, thank you. Nice to be here.
Misbah, just before we start, Gus places a lot of importance on its company values, and I would like to tease out one of those values and hear what your thoughts are on competence. What does competence mean to Orenda Career and Lifestyle Coaching?
Okay, I mean, competence is, I guess, what the whole business was built from, almost. I built it with a view that there were so many issues I was seeing that people were facing in the workplace, and to a certain extent in their personal lives. And actually that led me onto a journey, and if I can sum it all up, it probably leads to competence as one of the factors. I mean, not absolutely everything, but one of the factors. And it's so important to do things that you feel competent in. But I guess another part of my business is leading people to that competence.
Giving them the skills.
And
the guidance.
And the guidance to get to that competence, because you don't become competent in something overnight. You could have an interest in it, but you're not necessarily going to always be competent in a certain thing all the,
Exactly,
so
yes.
It's giving people the skills.
And today you'll get to hear more about it here in this webinar, so stay with us and find out more. And any questions for Misbah, do send them in the live chat box and we'll answer them during the Q&A session. So Misbah, let's dive straight in. Our first question is, to kick things off, can you give us an introduction into Orenda Lifestyle and Career Coaching and talk us through your career journey?
Okay. So Orenda Career and Lifestyle Coaching essentially is a service-led business. So it's something that I grew out of various things that happened in my professional and personal life. So itself, Orenda Career and Lifestyle offers career coaching, both career growth and also sometimes career change coaching, and then transformational coaching, which is more, it leads on to things not just at work, in the personal life as well, because I'm doing counselling on the side. Yeah. So it definitely has that element to it, but I think I don't think you can have one without the other.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the lifestyle piece is more the beauty and styling services I provide. Yeah. So taking it back to my career journey, I qualified as an employment lawyer. And worked pretty much after I qualified. I moved into the fashion industry, but still working as an employment lawyer. Yeah. And I think it's there where I saw a lot of things, such as some people would get promoted and do really well at work, some people wouldn't, some people just seemed to be happier, some people weren't. Yeah. And that really led me onto that journey of understanding what goes on. Yeah. And I feel, because I also did a lot of HR roles and I had that interactive element with a lot of employees who would sometimes open up to me about other things, not necessarily their work performance, but other things. And I guess that led me onto the journey of going deeper. I did my coaching qualification. I'm still studying counselling anyway to do more the transformational work. And I also saw that actually I don't want to call it superficial, because I think it's so important to the beauty and the styling. So it's how you present yourself. Yeah. And I had an interest in fashion. I worked in the fashion industry. I was doing makeup on the side. I think I qualified as a makeup artist, and I sort of just pieced it all together to provide this look good, feel good, do good service.
And I believe it all ties into with each other, isn't it? If you feel good and in your personal life, it also reflects into your career and into how you present yourself to the world, and also vice versa, isn't it? It kind of benefits.
Absolutely. I think it's a holistic approach. Yeah. It's not, when people say things like, just talking about, makeup or something is a bit frivolous, and I say no, it's not, because it's the feeling it gives somebody.
Exactly.
Whether you're talking about it in your personal life or the workplace, like how you feel, how you present is very, very important in the world. So, and I also did feel that a lot of people were not doing well at work, not necessarily because of the competence, but actually other things that were going on, and actually weren't that confident, and then weren't even presenting themselves in that way either. And I just think it's really important for people to know that being competent at your job is one thing, being intelligent is one thing, but actually there's so much more.
Yeah, and these are kind of tools that help you to feel more confident.
Exactly.
And it kind of
brings
out everything, highlights everything.
Exactly.
You have experience working in different industries, like you have experience from working in the beauty industry to fashion to employment law, in a career spanning over a decade. Can you tell us about taking the step to break out on your own, and how your experiences helped the growth of Orenda career and lifestyle coaching?
It was, it was a brave move. I broke up my own really in 2018. Originally, it started as a consultancy, which was more focused on employment law and HR. And then it grew into what's now Orenda career and lifestyle. It is a risk when you sort of go out onto your own, because you sort of are looked after when you work for somebody. Everything's very secure. So it is a risk, and I don't come from, like, my immediate family, we're not entrepreneurs either. So it was, but it's something I do believe if you're passionate about something, you will do it. And I was completely passionate about it. My career in the different industries is what led me into producing this business, like to starting it. I wouldn't have been able to do it had I not worked as a lawyer. I wouldn't have been able to do it had I not worked in HR. And then I wouldn't have been able to do it had I not worked in beauty and fashion. So I think all of these things really help, and it gives you like the groundwork and really the training to then go out on your own.
What I find really inspiring about you is you have a degree in law, isn't it? Like your background is in law, and then you've still pursued your passion for fashion and beauty, and it's amazing how you kind of tied everything in together, and you're doing something that you're really passionate about. You're still tying everything together. I think people sometimes feel like they need to choose between something they're passionate about or something that pays the bills, but it's amazing how you brought everything together.
Yeah, and it is, I think when you're at school and when you're at university, you think there's just certain careers and there's certain paths that you need to go down. And I do think that is true. I do think there is an element of truth in having that secure backing.
Of course.
But it doesn't mean you can't pursue other things that you're passionate about. And for me, this was something that I always was creative since I was really young. And I guess I've now been able to bring it together in this business.
Wonderful. What advice would you give to students when it comes to growing a business?
The main thing I would say is you have to be passionate about what you're doing. You have to have a real interest in it. It's really easy to think, I want to have a business because I want freedom, I want to be my own boss, I want the money, but actually those things really are the byproduct of something, and unfortunately you don't see the fruit sometimes of that until a lot later. So you have to be passionate about something, interested in it, competent, and I guess that comes with being very brutally honest with yourself about what you're good at and the skills you have. So I guess that's the first thing. And the second thing I would say is patience, because it doesn't happen overnight. Things like, networking, putting yourself out there, all of that's very important, but I really want to drum home that you have to be patient as well.
So patience, and also really passionate about what you want to do, because these things, I guess everybody wants like a hit overnight, isn't it? And things to be easy, but that's not the reality. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And a lot of perseverance before it becomes
something. And I think because we're the social media generation and we're all guilty of it, we think, oh, that person got so many views and they got this brand deal, so it must have happened overnight. But no, that doesn't happen overnight. That took lots of emails, that took lots of rejections,
yeah.
took lots of pictures.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Of course.
nothing happens easily. So, and that's just a very, when you're talking about influencing work, that's slightly different anyway. But with other businesses, it does take a lot longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to applying, so you also work at Coty. Coty is one of the world-leading beauty companies.
Yeah.
When it comes to applying for job roles at Coty, what should students look for in the application and interview process to make sure the job is the right fit for them, but also to make sure that they're the right fit for the job?
Coty is, it's iconic in terms of the company.
Yeah.
It's been around for so long.
There's so many brands under
We
it,
have
aren't there?
so many brands. So we have, and it's very unusual because it's consumer and luxury.
Yeah.
So usually a beauty company would focus on one area and we do both. So it attracts a lot of different people. We are sort of open to very different types of customer types.
Yeah.
And also the employees it attracts is very, very different as well.
Yeah.
So I think really understanding the work at Coty is another thing, because although it's a beauty company, within that there's so many jobs.
Exactly. So many departments.
So many departments.
So many people to make it happen.
Yeah,
actually,
exactly.
Day to day.
So relating it back to maybe what you're studying, relating it back to what you're interested in, maybe certain modules you've done, you should then definitely go for that type of role.
Yeah.
Because when hiring managers are looking at applications, although they, personality is a huge thing, like personality fit and cultural fit,
Yeah.
they'd want to see some type of, I guess, link between what you're studying to what you're applying for.
Yeah.
If not your main area of study, at least some type of maybe side course you've done or module you've done. So that is really important to really be, know what you actually really want to go for.
It's essentially also the student bringing in the skills, isn't it? So that they feel confident enough to do the job.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
be able to perform.
And we advertise all our jobs on the Coty Careers website, and the job specifications are very detailed.
Yeah.
So really looking at those roles and responsibilities. Obviously, it's very different if it's a more junior role, entry level role. We're not expecting loads of experience, but there will just be certain skills, or areas of knowledge that they'd be looking at. So definitely, it's growing as well.
Yeah.
Beauty's growing, Coty's growing. So a really good opportunity for people to look into working.
So this is your chance to send questions here to Misbah in the live chat box. Any questions that you have with regards to Coty or even to Orenda Lifestyle and Career Coaching, do send them through. You can already start sending the questions now so that we have them lined up when we get to the Q&A session. Our next question is, you also champion equality, diversity and inclusivity at work. How can diversity be promoted in the workplace by all of us? And can you tell us the importance of this?
It's probably been around. It should have been around for forever.
Yeah.
But everyone's talking a lot about it now. Yeah. Diversity it's a huge topic, but I think we're seeing subsections of that now. So things like lifestyle beliefs, neurodiversity, those subsections I guess are getting a lot more attention than the mainstream ones, which used to be talked about, have been talked about for a long time due to things like employment laws and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think with most workplaces, and I can definitely say this for Orenda, and I can definitely say it for Coty, it's all about championing different skill sets, different cultures, different abilities, and neurodiversity is huge. And I genuinely think that when you're looking at that type of diversity, it's very important to champion it, but also really understand that with people with certain neurodiverse conditions, where would their skills best fit? Yeah. So I guess it's one thing just understanding it, but another thing really implementing it so that both the employer and the employee can get the benefit. And then I think diversity just needs to be celebrated by everyone in the workplace. So regardless of, whatever, celebrating cultural occasions, the world we live in now, everybody knows about everyone else's sort of maybe cultural beliefs or certain holidays that take place. And I think celebrating that, supporting people, joining in celebrations, these are little things you can just do on a day-to-day basis.
And it brings people together.
Yeah.
It brings a sense of community and respect and understanding.
Yeah.
It's important.
Exactly.
I would like to explore a little bit more about the work, your work championing equality and gender issues a bit further. How important is it to pursue avenues that you feel passionate about? And how can students build on the work you have done and play an active role in championing equality?
Gender is, we've seen a lot recently about like women in tech.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of employment laws have actually changed to support women in work. So things like shared parental leave.
Yeah.
So I feel like, the government, the legal side is supporting all of this as well.
Yeah.
There's definitely a change in the world's view of how women should be in the workplace, what happens when they return to the workplace after maternity leave or, So I guess it's looking at a company that really champions and supports that.
Yeah.
But I think most of the big global companies do.
Yeah.
And I think on a day-to-day basis, it's really, I guess, thinking all the time, like, is this something we're doing because we want it to be, gender equality? Yeah. How can we support a new parent that's come back into work? And it needs to be like individuals, teams, departments, going up to like management level that everyone sort of supports this. It can't just be like a one-person job. And also looking at women in sort of more diverse careers and careers that they never used to go into.
Yeah.
But that's why I think that the whole women in tech thing has got such it's highlighted now.
Yeah.
And I would just say that it's a really important issue. It's here to stay. Like, life is getting busier.
Yeah.
Women are working more than they used to, even till longer.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that everyone needs to support and be aware of.
Agree. Like today, many students following this webinar will be eager to replicate the success that you've had in your career. How important was education to your success and the platform it has set for your career? And do you have any tips to make the most out of your time during education?
Education is pivotal. It's like the most important thing for my business and for my career journey. Yeah. I wouldn't have set up this company had I not done certain roles, had I not qualified and worked as a lawyer for so many years, and had I not studied in certain institutions. So I think it's really important, and I think it's really good to have that secure backing. It's really good to have something that you can, I don't want to use the word, I guess, fall back on, but something that you can really always use in different avenues, not necessarily something conventional. Yeah. So I definitely think it's, you should really make the most of your time with your education provider. If you're studying something, you've got an interest in something else, take another module. Yeah. Do ask university if they do side courses. If you've decided to study something years ago, doesn't mean you're necessarily stuck with that. You can explore other options and also make the most of your extracurricular activities, because I think they play such an important role, which we don't think about. But there's so much that universities offer, and actually if you really make the most of it, you can use it a lot in both your personal and your professional life. And then make the most of the career advisors as well, because I know that we have lots of links with career advisors at Coty when we're recruiting, so I definitely think keep close to them.
We'll talk about Coty and the opportunities there in a minute, but what I would like to do is hear more about your offers in terms of career and transformation services that you offer. So let's say if a student wants to find out more about Orenda, where can they find out more? What services do you offer, and what help can they get?
So I do webinars, and those webinars will be on different topics. Sometimes it's more on growing in your career, so sort of trying to look at promotions. Sometimes it's on career change, and then I guess what's most relevant to today is it will be on early careers. Yeah. So getting internships, graduate roles, how you can stand out from the rest. Yeah. So I do offer those webinars. My next one will be at the end of August, and the details will be sent out. My email address, which Jackson will send out, and then it will be advertised on my Instagram page, which is Misbah Malik 1. Again, those details Jackson will share out as well. Yeah. And those webinars, I advertise them a few weeks before. You can just sign up, And I provide, when it comes to things like styling and beauty services, that's slightly different because I need to have a consultation with the person initially to decide like how we're going to work together. A lot of people come to me and they just want, and I guess this is my biggest offering, they just want to be styled for an interview.
Yeah.
And they want to be coached before an interview because it's quite daunting when you're going to your first few interviews. You want to know, what are you going to wear?
Yes.
What about difficult questions you have to answer?
Yeah.
What about makeup, hair, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I absolutely love doing. So those services I do offer on more of an inquiry basis. So I have a consultation and then I offer a package around that. But the webinars are a lot more frequent. And then I guess tying into keeping a close eye on my Instagram, I do makeup artistry and beauty like recommended work as well. So like just recommending products and styling services of how you should dress maybe to work, a work event even, not just an interview, just like the more fun side as well.
So it's essentially learning a lot of new skills about how to present yourself, how you can be more confident and make the most out of life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what I love and that's what people find of most benefit. So
and finally, for students who are inspired by your personal journey and the work you do at Coty, are there any internships, work experience or job opportunities offered at Coty? And if so, how can students apply?
We have an internship which is not like a typical internship in that it's not a summer internship. It's actually a year long. So it would be July to July.
July, okay.
So it's a year. It's technically a year and 4 weeks because we have a handover period as well. So it would suit people either in a placement year or graduates. So we do take graduates for that as well because we don't have an official graduate scheme as such. So we use that as like, our early careers platform. So we will be opening up the internships earlier this year in terms of the application. So keep an eye on the website, on the Coty Career website, and they will go live the end of August, September.
Okay.
And then the interviews take place, and by around Christmas, we're hoping that everybody, knows what their position is, and then they obviously start the following July for a year.
Yeah. So does that mean that students can actually start applying now, or
they can start applying when the roles open, which won't be until the end of August.
Okay.
End of August, September. Obviously, we are aware that summer holidays, people don't necessarily apply, but by September, the roles should all be on the Coty career site, and it's a mixture of roles. So it would be in the head office. It's a lot of like marketing, PR, influencer type roles, finance roles, and then there are some roles in the manufacturing plant as well, which are more like sort of the engineering type roles. So
there's something for everyone.
So it's something for everyone. So definitely keep an eye on the website, and I'm sure you'll find lots of great opportunities.
Misbah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at some of the questions we received in the Q&A. So here's the first question. What advice would you give on maintaining a good work-life balance?
It's a really good question. I think it's a question that, like, when you first start out, sometimes you don't really think about it, but it's so important. I think workplaces are very good these days with understanding, people's capacity, boundaries. So having that great relationship with your line manager, if you have certain commitments outside of work, really letting them know before that and not thinking that they'll get scared. Actually, they encourage people to have activities outside of work. Sometimes it might be something a bit more personal, and actually you definitely need to commit to something outside of work and therefore need to leave at a certain time. So definitely having that dialogue with your manager. And I think being really sure that in order to do your best work, you need to have good rest, you need to have a good personal life, you need to feel fulfilled in other areas. So just don't ever feel any guilt or be hard on yourself about that.
And if you need advice, they can always get in touch with you.
Yeah, they can absolutely get in touch with me. So obviously my Instagram, Misbah Malik 1, my email address, which Jackson will send out. And then the webinars will be advertised on there in the next coming weeks. And then obviously my offerings for anything else as well. And definitely get in touch.
Our next question is, what gave you the confidence to switch paths and go it alone?
Sometimes I don't know. I think I I always knew that I wanted to have my own business. I always knew that I really believed in this service.
Yeah.
So I think that belief really kept me going. I did have really good support, like when I mentioned it to my old boss, they were really supportive and put me in touch with people. So I think once you know, I feel like things just happen.
Yes.
So it does take guts, and you do have to be brave, but I do believe that if you really want to do something, like somehow things just appear.
Happen. And if you put in the work, and if you really stick with it.
You have to stick with it. I think that's it. You have to stick with it. And there are days where it's hard graft, and there are days where you think, oh my God, am I getting any, I can't see the rewards of this.
Yeah.
But just stick with it, because if you really believe in what you're doing, like, it will happen.
Are there any signs that indicate that you're ready? Oh, I think it's an irrelevant question. I'll read it out in case if I'm misreading it. Are there any signs that indicate that you're ready to start your own business? You already have your own business.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Or am I misreading it? Is it potentially a student asking?
Student asking, yeah.
Maybe it's a student asking. Are there any signs? Yes. Sorry.
I mean, first of all, I guess it goes back to the thing, you need to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
You have to have that clear vision of what your interest is, what your passion areas are, what your skills are. Yeah. So that's the first thing. And I think also you do have to look at you have to be a bit honest with your lifestyle and maybe your personal circumstances as well. Yeah. Like, can you start a business at this time? Is there something else going on, which means you would need to just be employed? Yeah. And maybe right now is not the best time. Yeah. So
you need to see if you have the capacity.
You need to see if you've got the capacity. And I think that's the thing. I think as much as we love to think we can do everything, like now, sometimes life just gets in the way, or it's not that you can't do it.
Yeah, but there are things that happen.
But they're just things that you can't do right now. Yeah. And I think also if you have worked for a few years and you've got the understanding, the knowledge, you've built the connections, that is quite a good sign that you could be ready to go out on your own, provided obviously the other two boxes are filled, because that definitely gives you a ground ahead of other people in a way. And that's why I really recommend that if you can do work for a couple of years or work experience, because you've got to learn from somebody. Yeah. It's different if it's sort of a business that's passed down through family, but if you're doing something different, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's harder if you've not done any other work for somebody.
Of course.
Yeah.
It also kind of teaches you, it gives you the skills, isn't it?
Yeah.
To kind of
exactly. Of course.
Start it. What's been the biggest challenge you've had in your career journey, and how did you overcome it?
That's a good question. God, I think probably making because obviously I qualified as an employment lawyer. Yeah. And then I moved into just some HR roles. Yeah. And I think that in itself was challenging, in that when you're moving even within something related, you have to learn more skills. So when I was an employment lawyer, I was quite, okay, this is the law, this is how I apply it, this is how I speak to, you know. But when you do something a bit different, like something even like HR or talent acquisition, you have to think a lot more commercially. Yeah. You have to be sort of not thinking textbook thinking. You've got to be thinking more like the outside world. Yeah. And it was interesting, but it was definitely a challenge at first, because, you know, sometimes someone would say something to me when I moved from, I guess, more employment law to HR, and like somebody in the business would say something, and my immediate mind would be like, no, you can't do that. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's like the way I'd been sort of trained as a lawyer to say, no, that's illegal. Yeah. But actually what they weren't meaning that, they were meaning something else. Yeah. And I needed to think a bit more commercially and a bit more in a business-like way. Yeah. So that was definitely the biggest challenge. But I guess the second part of the question, overcoming it, learning from people, like learning from my bosses, learning from my peers, taking an interest more in business as well. So looking at things just from from a wider view as well. And obviously now I'm probably the other way. Now I'm very commercially and business focused. So
essentially coming in with an open mind, isn't it? And being open to learning new things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's quite important to bring.
Yeah, definitely.
What advice would you give to someone who doesn't know which path to follow, always struggling to find a passion?
It's really good questions, all of them. If you don't know what path to follow, I mean, I would say that sometimes this doesn't mean to sound like really like spiritual or woo-woo or anything, but sometimes there's a lot of noise in our life.
Yeah.
So I think what's really important is maybe if you could sort of take time out and go somewhere. It doesn't have to, I'm not talking about a holiday, but just somewhere where you're not in your usual environment.
Yeah.
And list down things like, we know when I talk about passion, usually when we talk about passion, we think, what do I actually really love to do? What did I love to do when I was a child?
Yes.
Think about stuff like that. Think about your values as well, because you're more likely to stick with a path as well if they align with your values.
Yeah.
So if you can do that, and the answers don't necessarily come straight away, but if you give it time, really think about it, and be really honest, again, goes back to like being really authentic, the answers will come. Obviously, that's what I'm here for. That's what my services are. That's what my services are here for, to get people onto that path. But it's people sometimes think, oh, I don't, I'm not passionate about anything, or I don't know what I am, but you are. It probably hasn't been unraveled. Yeah.
I like what you mentioned about your values. I think a lot of us, let's put it this way, in a generalized manner, we often don't have the time to kind of think about our values. We go to school, then we pick a subject, and we go to work, and then we get caught up in life without really thinking about what are my values, are they aligned with what I'm doing, and then the passion just disappears, and then you're surprised.
Yeah.
But it's a very good point. Kind of think about the values.
Yeah, exactly, because you will not only find your path, but you'll more likely stick to that path as well when it is really aligned with that.
Yeah. And because life is not always easy. There can be struggles even in the work that you do, which you're passionate about. And I think the values are something which will keep you going.
Yeah, definitely.
And give you that strong foundation that you need.
Yeah, and I think there's just so much noise sometimes when we're working in a place or studying in a certain place or living. So sometimes just getting away from your environment and just sort of just having more thinking time as well.
Will help. What similarities are there between law and the beauty industry that helped you transition? Are there similarities?
I mean, I'm not sure about law and the beauty industry have similarities. I think what I would say is maybe if I was something like a corporate lawyer, I might not have seen any similarities at all. But because I was an employment lawyer and I was all about people, so I was always working with people, people's like job issues or whatever that was, I definitely saw the correlation between a person who, you're not just an employee, you're like a human who has other wants and things happening. And I guess it's more the human side. So I think how people present themselves and how people feel, that's definitely, that's all about the person. So, and because I was an employment lawyer and I was all about the people, I think that's where I definitely saw the link. I mean, I'm not going to say that there's any link in terms of the creativity, because it's obviously something completely different. But I think also when you're doing, like, if I do makeup for somebody, or if I'm recommending beauty products, it also takes a level of awareness about who your audience is. And I think when you're a lawyer, especially when I was an employment lawyer, I had to be very aware of who and how I'm talking to. So there's definitely skills that I can see which like translate between the two. Yeah.
And it's also elevating, isn't it, to become your best version of yourself.
Yeah.
To kind of get the most out of life.
Yeah, exactly.
That's also kind of a link.
Yeah.
To see that. How can I access the application portal for the internship? So they're probably speaking about Coty, I guess.
Yeah. So the roles won't go live until the end of August, but you can still start keeping an eye on the Coty career site just to get an understanding of the type of roles we have. But the internship roles won't go live until the end of August, September, and all of the jobs are on there. So just keep a really close eye on there.
So go into the Coty website, have a look at everything that's there, and the jobs won't be live until September. September. But keep an eye on it.
Keep an eye on it.
And then we have our final question. What's your favorite thing you've learned whilst being a life coach?
My favorite thing is people, like, I guess people just surprise me.
Yeah.
Understanding people more, definitely, and the quirkiness and how people aren't necessarily like, you know, you think of somebody and you think, oh, that's their personality. But actually, when I've started doing coaching, I've realized that someone's not their personality.
Yeah.
You can't just say this person is like this.
Yeah.
So I think understanding people's challenges, but also what brings people joy, and how everyone's just so different in the world, and actually that just makes it amazing. And being able to help them realize that, and being able to help them live like their authentic lives, that obviously brings me a lot of joy, and hopefully them as well.
It makes the world a better place.
Makes the world a better place.
Misbah, it's been a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your expertise and insights with us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you a lot. And to our viewers, thank you for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this webinar. And like we've said, if you want to find out more about Orenda lifestyle and transformation coaching, and even more information, or you want to get in touch with Misbah, we'll send you the link. We'll share the link for you to view, and we'll also add it onto the YouTube link. We'll update that so you can have the information there. Next AirCover webinar is on the 14th of June at 3 p.m. BST with Seema Hira, who is the lead business analyst at Ascendia UK. Seema is also a business analyst coach who has helped many junior roles excel into senior business analyst leaders. So for more information, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you and goodbye.